Hello, my name is Keith Knudson. I'm an instructor and department chair at Dakota College in Bottineau, North Dakota. I'm also a small farmer. I raise hay, I have hemp production, I do vegetable production, and we also board horses at our farm called Aspen Hills Farm. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a program that we have at Dakota College. It's called our Farm Business Management Program. And this program has gone on for, I guess, probably 30 years, I would say. But it's a program that covers the state of North Dakota. Some of the things that we cover in the Farm Business Management Program include goal setting. And I want to talk a little bit about goal setting as we go through the slide presentation. We're also going to talk a little bit about different financial documents, but we spend a lot of time with our farm managers and producers talking about different types of documents that can act as a financial tool for the farmer. We also assess our personal goals annually with the producers to see how well they're doing, both from a personal standpoint, a family standpoint, and a business standpoint. We establish a record-keeping system. We determine our costs associated with production. We analyze all the alternatives at the end of the year that a farm manager may want to look at for the coming year. And of course, we talk about risk management and we go over some marketing techniques. And then finally, we have a tax planning session that we go to help the farmer plan for and prepare his taxes or her taxes. There are a number of locations of farm business management instructors across the state of North Dakota. Actually, there's 13 of them across the state of North Dakota. The Farm Business Management Program has its website that is available for farmers to take a look and to see who in their area or potentially where in their area that they would be able to hook up to an instructor and maybe get some additional support. So the farm, this is under ndfarmmanagement.com. Most of our offices are located either on a college or university or an extension research station. This program is in large part paid for by the North Dakota Department of Career and Tech Education, but also local colleges and universities put in a share of the total cost. And a lot of those dollars come from tuition that our farm managers pay. And so each college or university has a different tuition structure. The course itself is a 2-credit course. It runs about $700 a year. That's not a semester, but a year. So it's about $350 a semester. There is usually some funding available, especially for new participants in the program. One of the things I mentioned right off the bat is that we talk about goal setting. And so what we really want to know is, what do you want out of life? What do you want for your family or your friends? And then what do you want your business to achieve in its activities? We go through, or especially in my situation when I'm talking to farm managers or participants, I use a SMART goal setting technique, and it has 5 parts to it. The first one is specific. So when we decide on our goals, we want to be very specific with our goals. We want to know exactly what we want to accomplish out of that goal. And it's important to set some type of a measurement so that we can see progress, or we can see that we're not meeting what we wanted to in a particular time frame. We want our goals to be very achievable. We don't want to set them so high that we become frustrated with it. We can always change or add to our goals. We want them to be very realistic to what we're doing and to what we are capable of doing. And of course, they need to be timely. Some of our personal goals that we often talk about is that, of course, we want to maintain good health as individuals. We want to be in a trusted circle of friends. We would certainly like to be financially secure. We want to be part of a lot of times of a loving extended family, and we want to be involved in our community. The goal setting and decision making for our businesses are a lot different. First of all, our business, we want it to be profitable. That's very, very important that our business be profitable. Because if it isn't profitable, then it cannot help you with your family expenses. Of course, we want to conduct our business in an ethical and fair manner. It's very important, especially in agriculture, that we conserve all natural resources. And we want to sometimes think about our family and providing them some job opportunities or some careers in the same business. We go through a number of goal setting steps in this process. We determine where to go in the future. We talk about where you've been in the past. We talk about what our family's resources are, what our farm resources presently are, and of course, what are we capable of doing ourselves? What resources, what do we have to offer to the business? And there's always some restrictions that we need to think about and talk about. Our goals need to be very specific. We need to prioritize our goals. And then we need to come up with kind of an action plan, and that would include a plan to implement those. And then, of course, we always want to stop, take a look at where we're at with goals and see how we're doing. So we always want to try to measure those. And I mentioned that making it measurable is very important. I mentioned before that there are a number of record-keeping tools that we provide through the Farm Business Management Program. I'm just going to go through a few of them. Of course, our record book, a lot of times we think about a record book, and that's where we keep our receipts and our expenses. But there are also a number of different financial statements or tools that we can use. An example of that is a balance sheet, sometimes called a net worth statement. This gives us an idea of our financial position of our business. And it shows the assets, the liabilities, and the net worth. When I'm working with a farm manager, I like to pull out the one from a year ago, and we sit down and we do a comparison. Where were we a year ago financially, and where are we today? We do a little analysis to try to identify areas that maybe have caused us to go backwards, and then at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities where we identify what we did better this year and why our financial statement looks better. Another tool that oftentimes I like to visit with farm managers about is what we call a cash flow statement. I feel this is probably one of the most important tools that you can have as a farm manager. So what does this tool do? Well, it actually shows your cash flow throughout the year by month. And the expenditures are included in the cash flow, as well as your income, your revenue is included in the cash flow. So month by month, we know what our expenditures should be, and we also know what our revenue should be. So we can kind of predict that based on the type of product or the produce or the crop or the livestock that we're producing, and when typically we would have expenses or typically have revenue based on that. So this becomes a very important document because as a farm manager, there will be months during the year when you're really cash strapped, when you don't have cash available to pay your bills. And none of us like to let our bills just lay there month after month. Well, this becomes a very, very good tool if you need to go to your banker. And we usually do that early in the season. I usually advise our farm managers to go to early in season and talk to our banker about when we'll need some extra cash. And the bankers really appreciate that because then they know that you're managing your business properly. Some examples of when we see these types of issues is typically in the spring when we're seeding our crop and we have a lot of seed costs, we have a lot of fertilizer costs, we have fuel costs, and we have just gone through 5 or 6 months where we've had no revenue, not a lot of expenses through the winter, but now is the time when we need that cash available. So this gives us an opportunity to use our banking resources to come up with the cash to make sure that we're paying on time. Then later in the summer and sometimes in the fall, then we start to see some revenue. And that's when we kind of get ahead of our expenses, at least short term, and we're able to pay some of those operating costs and those operating loans back to the bank. So this really just smooths out the year for you from a expenses and a revenue standpoint, and it really, really helps. Really helps anxiety levels, is what it does. We also know that a lot of times during the middle of the summer, when we're out working, the last thing we want to do is try to go in and figure out how to pay our bills. And so this type of a tool really helps us work through that in advance. There's another one that we use quite a bit, and that's called our production records. Our production records will typically tell us what our costs are, our seed cost inputs are per acre, what our fertilizer is, what our chemicals is, our labor, a lot of different inputs. And we also record that not only in a cost standpoint, but in a unit standpoint in bushels or in gallons or hours, that type of thing. So then at the end of the season, when we look at our revenue and we look at our expenses and we look at how many bushels that we used per acre to seed and how many bushels returned, we can do somewhat of an analysis of it and say, this crop worked for me, this crop did not work for me. And then, of course, also very important is death loss that we may have with some of our livestock. We need to record that. We need to identify that as being a loss to our business. We need to understand why we had that loss. Same way with produce and crops. Sometimes our crop may get destroyed by a storm or weather. Sometimes when we have produce, we don't sell all the produce that we have because there just isn't a market for it. So that's a good time for us at the end of the year to take a look and analyze why we have that situation. Another area that we touch on is state and federal tax records. So we'll go through some of the various schedules with our farm managers so that they get a good understanding of how to fill those out. There's also documents such as the Farmer's Tax Guide that we often refer to as farm business management instructors that gives the producer an idea of how to fill out those records. One of the things that oftentimes we don't forget about necessarily, but we just don't really know what we spend when it comes to family living expenses. So we ask our farm managers to kind of keep a record of our expenses so that we know what our food is, our utility bill is, our phone bills, and some of our other personal items. This is very important to know because we need to know how much of our family living expenses that business will be able to provide. And so we're able to help the farm manager determine, do we need other sources of revenue, or are we going to be able to have the revenue off of the farm to pay for our family expenses? One other item that we often think about when we start a business is a business plan. And bankers, investors often require that we have some kind of a business plan in place. That plan just basically tells us an idea of where our resources are, maybe some problem areas that we will have that could include a competition or some type of a pricing issue that we may have down the road, or perhaps weather conditions. This business plan, we will talk a lot about that and discuss that in our business plan. There are a number of different parts to a business plan, and the instructors will go through those parts of the business plan and help you understand what each section of it is. It's important to understand that the instructor does not write the business plan. It's your responsibility to write that business plan. So we are here to help you, but in the end, it is your business plan. Those are just a number of areas that we talk about in our farm business management program. Please feel free to contact me at my phone or email me, and I will be happy to respond back to you. I hope that this has kind of helped you understand the farm business management program that we have at Dakota College. So please feel free to give me a call and visit with me. Thank you.